Hello and welcome to another Starfield episode here on the MoleRP channel. My name is KSMole and today we will take a look at the weapon stats. And now you might remember that I already did a video like this a few months ago, but that was all theoretical. It was all based on the information we had out of trailers and videos and all that. And now we have the practical information and things have changed quite dramatically. And I want to do another deep dive to exactly explain to you how this works and how you can make your own decision on which weapon will be better than the one you already have. With that said, there are a few things I have to note here. First things first, if you were curious about what mod I'm using to make my interface a little bit more, well, approachable, let's call it that, you will actually find the link down below in the video description. And also, I will not talk about the rarity and the perks which are coming with those rarities, and I will also not talk about the mods in this video. Why? Because they are quite important and they deserve their own video down the line, and that is exactly what I will do. So we will just focus on the stats you will get from a normal weapon and what you have to look out for. Now, with that said, quick note. Bethesda is omitting a lot of valuable information, like quite a bit of valuable information. It makes it sometimes hard to exactly determine if a weapon will be better than the one you are having. And the best tip I can just give you here is try the weapon out. Try out how it feels, how you feel the damage, and is it actually working in your playstyle. You still have to do that from time to time. Even after this video, you cannot evade that, because unfortunately that's how Bethesda decided to do it, and it sucks. Sorry for that, but again, that's how it goes. So with that said, let's talk about stat. How is the damage number coming together? I think this is the biggest question I see. Like, what is the damage number actually telling me? How is this coming together? And how does it determine if the weapon is actually better than the one I have or, well, not? And to understand that, we have to take a look at the stats on the right side. And the important stats here are magazine, fire rate, range, and accuracy. And we will start with the two stats which you can kind of manipulate and which are not that important. That is first the range and then accuracy. So what is range? Well, pretty simple. The moment you are getting out of the maximum range, which is 27 meters in this case, you would do 50% less damage with the weapon. And the further you are going away, the less damage you will do. Now, it's pretty simple to keep it up, right? You just have to be in the range and you will immediately notice if your damage values are going up or if they are going down. And then with the accuracy, well, it's also pretty simple. It's the accuracy is happening when you are using hipfire. If you're aiming down sights, you still have a chance to sometimes miss, but it is much, much lower. How much lower? Can't tell. Bethesda is not telling you, and I have really no way of telling you, sorry, but you have like a 95 hit chance when you are when you're using sights, right? I would say about 95 hit chance, which is pretty high. Now, let's talk about the actual stats which matter when it comes to the damage you will do. Let's talk about the magazine size. Well, the first one and most obvious gain here from a big magazine size is the bigger the magazine, the longer you can shoot, the longer you can keep up the damage. It's a DAR moment, right? But what is also very important is that you then have to start to reload. The lower the magazine, the often you have to reload. And you probably already noticed it, right? There is no reload timer. There's not a stat in the game which is telling you about reload times for weapons. Wait. Does that mean they're all unified? They all have the same reload time? No, not at all. I actually did some tests with the weapons you were seeing here, and a lot of the weapons have like 2.8, 3.0, 3.1, 3.2, 3.5, 4.0, 6.0 seconds of reload time, which is kind of crazy, right? Like, that is a lot of reload time you have to keep in your mind, and I'm really surprised that good old Bethesda just decided reload time? Nah, that's not important. You don't have to know that. Just ignore it. right? And it gets crazier when you realize how often you have to reload a gun. Let's take the keel hauler here, right? Keel hauler, 6 magazine. So the first thing you think is, oh, so I have 6 shots, right? No, you have 2. Because the weapon is actually shooting 3 shots per shot. So after 2 shots, you have to reload. And the reload time for this weapon is about, 1.8 seconds? So you have to keep that in mind. Sure, the reload time is relatively quick, but it still takes some time. The same goes for this weapon. The reload time for this weapon is 2.8 seconds. 2.8 seconds after 8 shots. So you always have to keep that in mind when you are reloading a weapon. And I do not understand why Bethesda is not telling you the reload time for every weapon. It's bizarre because it is absolutely important for the decision making. Because let's be honest here, you are sitting around reloading your weapon. That means you are vulnerable. You are not doing anything in the meantime, and that's bad. So, please, Bethesda, put a reload time somewhere in your stats. Please. It is really important. Now, let's talk about the fire rate. Yes, the next big problem. So why is the fire rate important? Well, there are 2 reasons for the fire rate to be important. First things first, you want to know how fast your weapon is shooting and how many bullets you can shoot per what exactly, right? Bethesda is not explaining the fire rate to you, but thankfully I have figured it out, so we'll tell you in a second here. And the second thing you have to know, and this is very important, the higher the fire rate of a weapon, the lower the overall damage of your weapon. Huh? Why is that? It's pretty simple. Like, think about it for a second. You have a slow shooting weapon and you do a lot of damage, right? And then you're just increasing the fire rate. That weapon would be absolutely OP. So what they did, for balance reason, is the higher the fire rate, the faster you shoot, the less damage the bullet does, or the projectile you're shooting, because you're shooting very fast. And that's basically what they are doing. So keep that in mind when you're looking at the fire rate and you were trying to increase the fire rate of the weapon. It will automatically decrease the damage you do overall. All right? But let's talk about the fire rate in general. How does this work? Well, the formula for fire rate seems to be how many shots you can fire by holding down your shooting button, which, well, for me on the PC is the left mouse button, right? And then you are emptying your magazine and how many shots you can fire in 10 seconds without reloading. What? Okay, now in English, please. What does that mean? Well, just look at the shotgun here. You have a fire rate of 28. You have a magazine of 28. And for the shotgun means it takes 10 seconds. I have stopped the time on this. It took me 10 seconds to empty the magazine. And that means I had a fire rate of 28. Because it took me exactly 10 seconds to empty the magazine. But wait, you said no reloading. What is that supposed to mean? So this is something they did in Fallout 4. When they calculate the fire rate, even if a weapon has to reload in between, they are not counting the reload time. So I did the testing with the Breach here, which is a shotgun, right? I have a magazine of 8. I have a fire rate of 12. So that means I'm able to shoot 12 shots in 10 seconds if I wouldn't have to reload. And I tested that. So I did a test with emptying my magazine, then having to reload after 8 shots, and then I was something at like 12 or 13 seconds to fire 12 shots. And then what I did is I emptied my magazine, paused the timer, did the reload play out. The moment the reload played out, I started to shoot again, shot my last 4 shots, started the timer of course, and then I fired 12 shots at the 10 seconds mark. And I tested that with quite a bit of weapons, right? So that is how they calibrate it and how they figure out the fire rate. They do not count the reload time into fire rate. And if you think that's dumb, like, I have to reload, right? Like, why would that not be calculated in the fire rate? I don't know. Look, they decided to go with the raw fire rate without any of the reload, and that's just what they're rolling with. And that's how it works. That's how the fire rate is calculated. So now the next big question is, of course, wait, okay, cool, but how is the damage calculated? Okay, you said the higher the fire rate, the lower the damage. Reload time is important and all that. But how does this damage happen? Well, to make it very clear, the damage you see here is under optimal conditions. That means the enemy you're shooting at needs to have low resistance. Right? Let's say you were shooting with physical damage on a mag, you have a pretty high chance that you will do low damage, and you might want to switch over to a weapon which actually does energy damage, right? Because a lot of the mags are vulnerable to energy damage. And then there's also EM damage. I don't have an EM gun right now, and that's just for stunning, if you want to stun your enemies, right? But so it comes down to, how are the resistance on your enemy? The level difference is playing a part in this. And most importantly, do all your bullets hit the target at an optimal range? Because it gets a little bit more complicated when you are thinking about this. Let's say I'm shooting with the Maelstrom. Hitting left click, 1 bullet is flying out, does, under optimal conditions, 56 damage. Simple, right? Everybody can follow that thought process. Now it gets a little bit more complicated with a shotgun. You can see that the shotgun is doing much more damage. That doesn't mean that every pellet coming from the shotgun is doing 193 damage. It means that in total, that is the damage you will do when all the pellets are hitting at optimal range. So if you're wondering why your number is lower, it probably means, well, not all of the bullets have been hit the target, or they had some resistance, or they were not in optimal range. And also very important to note, there are some guns which will have a hair trigger. What does that mean? Well, they basically shoot very fast. Like as I already explained with this gun, I have 6 shots in my magazine, but in reality I only shoot twice because of the hair trigger. And the damage you see here is all 3 bullets combined. So if I'm clicking once, this pistol will shoot 3 times, and that's the damage. Right? That is the overall damage you would do with this gun. Like, just hitting once, hitting your left click or your shooting button, whatever it is, once. And then the amount of bullets which will be released will do that damage on the right side. And again, it has to be under optimal conditions. Right range, you have to hit, and of course the stats your enemy has and the perks you have. That's also very important. So what does that all mean? Well, that all means that actually calibrating and understanding the damage your weapons will do is not that easy. Like as I said before, feeling it out and getting a feel for the gun and how it just like does damage is still the best way of doing it. As unfortunate as that is. But it is the most optimal way of doing it, feeling it out. The DPS is helping with that a little bit, but as you can see, my melee weapon doesn't have a DPS because it doesn't have an attack speed. Like, melee weapons are pretty bad in this. If you're wondering, okay, what is the number I'm looking for with a melee weapon? The most damage and the perks you were getting. Because the reality is that all melee weapons attack at the same speed. 1 attack per second, 3 attacks, 1 second cooldown, rinse and repeat. Wait, that means a saber is attacking as fast as a dagger? Yeah. Yeah, they do. It's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. And it's unfortunate, really, but that's how it works. So the only thing you're looking for is what is doing the most damage, especially if you are doing a sneak attack. And it does X time the amount of damage. You want the highest damage number you can get. Everything else doesn't really matter. So, yeah. Melee weapons are pretty simple in that regard. But if you still have some questions, please let me know down below in the comments. I will try to answer them as much as possible. I know it was a little bit complicated here and there, but unfortunately it is complicated because Bethesda is not doing it the easy way. And there are a lot of things you have to consider. And I basically just started to test out things. Like, I get a new weapon, I see how it feels, I see the damage numbers, and then I make a decision on, is this weapon worth it or not? And reload time is one of the big decisions. Like, you have seen it with the gun I have just used, right? It's a pretty quick reload time in comparison to some of the other guns where the reload time is much, much longer and you're just sitting around. Like, I would even go so far to say that reload times are a big factor in this game, and I cannot understand that Bethesda is not giving us that information and we basically have to figure it out ourselves. So, yeah, definitely consider the reload times when you are choosing a weapon. With that said, we're at the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it was helpful. As I said, if you still have some questions, let me know down below in the comments. If you're new to the channel, you want to see more Starfield videos, please don't forget to leave a like and also subscribe to the channel. We're also doing a weekly Starfield podcast, always on Monday. And yeah, I think that's it. If you want to know anything else, check out the video description. And again, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.